Your hand moves toward the clock at the corner of the screen. 5 o'clock. Then another message appears, and the workday quietly stretches past the number that was supposed to end it. Now replace the clock with a church bell. In medieval England, that bell could mark a day when a lord was not supposed to call certain workers into his fields. On one manor controlled by Westminster Abbey, villagers refused the labor they owed on feast days. The manor fined them. Then, in 1321, the abbot offered a compromise: 2 days free at Christmas, 2 at Easter, and 2 at Pentecost. 6 days. During the meeting, the village reeve, the official caught between the peasants and the abbey, was recorded as surly. The abbot withdrew the entire offer. So did medieval peasants really work less than you? By one narrow measure, some of them did. A religious calendar could temporarily take their labor away from a lord, but it could not take every task away from the household. The sickle could stop while the cow still needed food, the fire needed fuel, water had to be carried, and a leaking roof ignored the holy day. So before we count medieval vacation days, we need to know what the bell had actually stopped: work, or only one powerful person's claim on it. That distinction changes everything. The peasants on that Abbey manor were not demanding a day when every form of effort vanished. They were resisting labor owed to the estate, plowing its land, carrying its produce, cutting its grain, or completing another required service. When that obligation stopped, the lord lost a worker. The household did not automatically gain a resting person. Other English manors observed different combinations of Sundays, major feasts, and seasonal remissions. There was no single medieval vacation calendar. The rules changed from estate to estate and sometimes from one year to the next. That is why dramatic claims about medieval peasants enjoying half the year off collapsed so quickly. The calendar could protect specific interruptions. It could not guarantee total leisure. And even those interruptions depended on authority. Who gave the order? Was the task necessary? Who profited? Would a church court punish the worker, the master, both, or neither? A bell could announce a holy day. It could not make the harvest wait. In 1413, a medieval master and the servant working beside him were caught carting hay on the feast of St. Anne. The church court cited them both. At the same court session, another master had several workers binding barley on a Sunday. This time, only the man above them was cited. Same kind of labor, same religious rule, different answer about responsibility. That inconsistency was not a side detail. The written rule entered the field through masters, servants, local custom, and judges. Medieval church law recognized the problem. A servant might be ordered to work by someone who controlled wages, food, or a place in the household. Some legal writers argued that genuine fear could excuse the subordinate. The person giving the order carried the greater responsibility. But coercion did not turn every task into an excuse. A worker could not deliberately move an ordinary obligation onto a feast day just to create a free weekday later. Necessary work might be permitted. Coerced work might be excused. Profitable work performed for someone else could still be condemned. The protected day had edges, and those edges reveal the real issue. Rest was not only about the calendar, it depended on power: who could command, who could refuse, and who would suffer when the rule was broken. But church courts mostly noticed labor when it became a violation, an order, or a dispute. What about the work that never entered a courtroom? Open a manorial account and the page looks precise. Wages, acres, harvest crews, carts, payments. But the account is not a diary of village life, it is a financial record created for an estate. One study examined 1,191 English manorial accounts from roughly 1250 to 1450. 73% gave no clear evidence of the worker's gender. Most laborers appeared only as a role: reapers, threshers, thatchers, or an unnamed group hired for one task. Then occasionally one worker steps out of the blur. In 1405, a paid female harvest worker and her team cut 10 acres of wheat and 3.5 acres of oats at an English manor. She becomes visible because the estate paid for a measurable task. Now follow her home in your imagination, but keep the distinction clear. The account does not record her complete day. It may record the wheat. It does not need to record food being prepared, fuel being gathered, clothing being repaired, animals being fed, or children being watched. Those tasks could consume time without producing the same kind of entry on the page. The bell might stop the sickle used for the Lord. It did not stop the household from needing hands. So the midpoint answer is not that medieval peasants secretly enjoyed enormous vacations. It is that surviving documents count some kinds of work far better than others. And once you see that, the comparison with modern work changes. Maybe the real difference is not simply how many hours people worked, maybe it is how time was divided and who was allowed to claim it. Picture a field laborer reaching the end of a strip of grain. The task is finished because the crop is safe, the required ground is complete, the light is failing, or rain is moving across the field. Now picture a modern employee finishing every task on the screen. The work may still continue because the clock has not reached the approved hour, or because another message arrives after it has. A medieval worker did not live without time. Church bells divided the day, markets opened and closed, courts met. Monasteries followed detailed schedules, but much rural labor was organized around tasks, seasons, weather, and daylight rather than identical blocks of measured hours. You did not harvest until 5 o'clock. You harvested until the grain was safe, the rain arrived, the light failed, or the required service was complete. That could create brutal days during planting and harvest. It could also create slower periods when the field demanded less. Work expanded and contracted because the task and season changed. Later systems of workshop and factory discipline placed a different pressure on the worker. An hour could be measured apart from the task completed inside it. Arriving late, pausing too long, or leaving early became visible offenses even when the immediate work was already done. This does not mean medieval labor was gentle, free, or self-directed. A lord could demand service. Hunger could force a family to continue. Animals and weather created schedules no worker controlled. The medieval household could be trapped by necessity. The modern worker can be trapped by availability. Put the two workdays side by side. A bell rings across a field. A peasant lowers the sickle owed to the Lord, then walks home, lifts a bucket, checks an animal, repairs a fence, and helps turn grain into food. A notification appears on a screen. A modern employee completes the assigned task, then receives another because the paid day has not officially ended, or because work has learned how to follow people home. Neither system guarantees freedom, but they hide labor in different places. Medieval records often lose work performed inside the household. Modern schedules can record the paid hour perfectly while losing the moment work begins occupying attention outside it. The bell and the clock do not simply measure different periods. They answer different questions about when another person is allowed to claim your time. So did medieval peasants really work less than you? By some official measures, some of them did. Their lords could lose access to certain forms of labor on Sundays, feast days, and negotiated remissions. But that is not the same as proving they worked fewer total hours. The records count the sickle owed to the manor far better than the bucket carried home, the animal fed after sunset, or the hands preparing tomorrow's food. A medieval peasant could have more protected interruptions from particular obligations and still possess less comfort, security, or freedom. A modern worker can have shorter official hours and still carry the workplace home in a pocket. That is the paradox. The bell could stop one claim on a peasant's time without creating leisure. The clock can measure every paid minute without measuring when work has truly left your life.